Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the latest instalment of One Week at a Time. I'm Abra Dunsby, Acting Features Editor at TTG, and I am joined once again by Lee Hunt, Managing Director of Deben Travel. How are you today, Lee?
Not too bad, thank you. The week has flown by.
Yes, God, crazy week as well. We will chat about it now. So, Deben Travel was named the UK and Ireland's top agency by TTG as part of the Top 50 Travel Agencies Award a few weeks back. And today we'll be discussing how the last week has been for him and for his agency. So, yeah, I think it's been a bit of a crazy week for us in travel again. So I wanted to kick off by talking about some of the news announcements that came out towards the end of last week, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so on Friday, the Department of Transport published its travel corridor list of 59 countries that English travellers can visit from the 10th of July without having to self-isolate for 2 weeks when they return. So countries on the list include Italy, France and Spain. So just wanted to ask what your thoughts were on this particular list. It's good news, isn't it? Are you happy about it, or do you remain cautious still?
I think it's good. Certainly good news that we finally got the list. It was long overdue, and we seem to be waiting most of the week for the list to be announced.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously is good news that we have now got a list and we have got a little more clarity. But I think for me, that's really all it is at the moment, is a little bit more clarity, and certainly still cautious. I think I, like many travel agents across the UK, just feel worn out by it all. Just feel drained, physically and emotionally, just by having to keep up to date with so much at the moment and so much going on in our everyday lives. I think us as travel agents probably need a holiday quite desperately as well. But a little bit of clarity, but certainly still very cautious.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned there, it was a delayed announcement, wasn't it? We were sort of initially said it was going to be on the Monday, and then it came out later in the week. So what sort of impact is that having on the travel industry, these constant delays and changing in what is eventually what ends up happening, really?
Well, I think certainly from a travel agent's perspective, we were getting questions week before last about, we were doing inquiries, but we were certainly at that stage, and we still aren't taking new bookings for July and August departures. The week before last, we were taking inquiries and simply saying to our customers, we really do need to see what the government announcement's going to be before we can take your inquiry any further. And some inquiries were quite in depth. And if that was the case, to be honest, we weren't even putting the groundwork in at that stage, because we could have worked on someone's inquiry for a good couple of hours and then be told that actually you can't travel to that destination anyway. So it certainly, it was a huge frustration that the announcement wasn't made on Monday. And then it was pushed back till Wednesday, and then it was then again pushed back till Friday. And announcements on a Friday are never good, because there's no one really to get then any more further clarification from over the weekend. So I think only now moving into this week can we dig a little bit deeper and find out a little bit more about these air corridors. And obviously already we're finding out that it may be not as straightforward as what we were originally hoping for it to be.
Yeah, it's true. It was a strange time for the announcement to come out, wasn't it? So late on a Friday like that as well. So on that same day, we had the FCO announcements as well, that it would ease its advice against all non-essential travel from the 4th of July, so from Saturday, and published a list of exemptions to that all but essential international travel advice, with 67 countries on there, including countries such as Austria, Australia and Jamaica. So as we just mentioned, there's some confusion there, isn't there? Because some of those destinations actually have their borders closed to Brits at the moment. So places like Australia, for example, and then we've got countries such as Jamaica, which require clients to be tested at the airport, for example. And then there's others that require quarantine on arrival. So it turns out that there are actually only 25 countries, that was released this morning, 25 countries that can be accessed from England without any travel restrictions. So what do you think about the fact that there are these two different lists? Do you agree that it's causing a lot of confusion?
It's total confusion, and I think us as travel agents are used to dealing with a lot. And I think it's confusing for the travelling public. It's confusing for us as experts as well. We what happened to the traffic lights? That would have been, people understand traffic lights.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking, if I was sitting there in the Foreign Office, I'd call my counterpart, say in, for example, Cyprus, and say, can British citizens enter Cyprus without any quarantine or any other delays, yes or no? No, you're going on the red list. I then call my counterpart in Austria. Yes, we can come in without any issues. You're going on the green list. That would have been so much more straightforward, because as it stands, we've got what looks like on the surface a lengthy list of places where our customers can go to, and yet actually they can't, because there are so many restrictions in place on arrival. My concern is from a travel agent's perspective is, first of all, now we need to be experts in every single country. We need to be experts at where to find this information on the Foreign Office site. We need to, as well as being experts in everything else that we're expected to be specialists in. I suppose my worry is, could that lead to come back on us if we book someone a destination, not realising that upon arrival, quarantine or additional checks are required? That customer then gets sent back home at who knows whose expense. That's still unknown. Are they going to be knocking on our door the day after landing back, complaining or wanting a refund? So I think certainly it puts a lot of extra weight on our shoulders as travel agents. And certainly even today, when I've been doing some research for some clients that were looking to go to Cyprus, I looked at the 2 leading UK tour operators' websites, as we would generally when we're looking at availability for our customers. And you can get through to that final page of booking, and all it asks you to do is tick a box to say that you've checked the Foreign Office advice. It doesn't flash up anywhere to say, be aware, you're looking to book someone a holiday to Cyprus for 7 nights and they can't go there for 7 nights until they've quarantined for 14 days on arrival. So I do think that the UK tour operators as well, these are big companies. These guys need to update their systems. I mean, as travel agents, we're experts and we know that actually people do need to be more careful. But who's to say that someone sitting at home on an evening booking their own holiday online would do that? So I do think there are troubling times ahead for some of these destinations, and certainly a lot more weight on our shoulders, if you like, for us as travel agents.
Yeah, a lot more pressure for you to be very up to date with everything that's moving at so fast a pace as well. So we've said, it's causing confusion in the travel industry, let alone to consumers who obviously aren't experts in the same way that we are. What do you think the government should be doing to rectify this confusion? Should there just be one list? How do they go about sort of making this clearer?
Well, I think going back to a relatively straightforward traffic light system, a red and a green, forget amber, just a red and a green. A green is you can go there and there'll be no quarantine on arrival, maybe a side note to temperature checks and things like that, and there'll be no quarantine on the way back. And if it's red, then you can't go. Click here for further information. I just think the government have come out of this. It's just very evident that they don't understand the travel industry. They don't understand the pressures that we're under, the financial pressures that we're under. They don't understand the inner workings of a holiday. I honestly don't think. And I think that's mainly because, if we look at the government, they have the Department for Transport that oversees everything when it comes to kind of our industry. We obviously have part of that with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office as well. We have a Minister for Tourism. There are lots and lots of different people and departments, it seems, that all have a bit of a hand in the holiday market, if you like, or the overseas travel market. But you certainly wouldn't say that there's, by any stretch, any experts there that really do truly understand what we're going through and the pressures that we're under. Unlike if I compare it to the arts sector, who have obviously, there's the huge £1.5 billion worth boost to the arts. Well, there is a secretary for that area, and they really do seem to understand it better than what anyone does the travel industry.
Yeah, it seems as though there hasn't been much sort of dialogue between the FCO and the Department of Transport, for example, with these two sort of slightly
No,
contradictory lists?
I think if there was more dialogue between the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the Department for Transport, and also the Civil Aviation Authority, that would have wound up a lot of these refund issues that are ongoing and still the bane of my life on a daily basis. It would have highlighted the issues that airlines have with simply not being able to turn on a tap and fly to a destination. And it would also obviously iron out the issues that we're currently now having with quarantines on arrival, and extra health checks and what have you as well. It just seems like a very broken down process that's currently in place that I think is going to have, well, it's certainly having an impact on the industry at the moment. And I think unless that's rectified relatively quickly, it could be quite a long-term impact that we see as well, with loss of confidence from the customer.
Mm. And we mentioned as well that these lists are likely to change very often as well, depending on the COVID situation within the destination. So, is it going to be quite tough for you to be keeping track of those changing the changing list and the changing destinations on top of everything else you're having to do right now as an agent?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, we're just lucky to have the internet, really. I can't actually think, before, thinking back to when I first started in travel, when we just had huge books that we needed to go through, we wouldn't have got that information back then. But we have so much going on at the moment. Like I say, I mean, mine and my one other team member that's working with me in the store at the moment, because of distancing rules and what have you, we can't have anyone else in the store. Our day is consumed by speaking to customers and apologising for delays in refunds, chasing suppliers for refunds, making sure we're adhering to the distancing rules when clients do come in, and on top of that, actually trying to make some money and do new bookings. So now we've got all this other stuff as well that we need to focus on, and we can't actually book someone's holiday until we have checked this information, because there is a huge risk that it's going to come back on us. Because by us simply ticking the box to say that we've read and understood the Foreign Office advice on the tour operators or airlines website, that is then passing responsibility back to us. So it's going to mean recorded telephone calls, potentially with customers, making sure booking forms that customers are signing are particularly lengthy, so that they're signing to say that they're aware of these, and actually that they're aware that the rules could also change. It is a real minefield, and that's why I'm still really concerned. And that's why, we still aren't in a position, as a business anyway, where I feel comfortable in booking last minute holidays for July and August.
Right. So July and August is still off the cards for you then?
Still off the cards. I honestly don't think I could cope with any additional stress of holidays being cancelled, additional quarantines being brought in, clients being worried. We really have got enough on our plate at the moment without that additional stress. That's not to say that we shouldn't be encouraged, trying to get those bookings in, but certainly for me and for my business, I just don't feel comfortable that we can do that at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So have you got any thoughts about how you're going to explain all of this to your customers, the changing advice? Have you been sort of speaking to them on the phone since the advice came out, or are you going to send out a newsletter explaining everything? What's your sort of plan in terms of communication there?
Yeah, it is a tricky one, and it's something I've put a lot of thought into, because what we don't want to do is send out information that then the next day is out of date. So I think, like many agents across the UK, a few weeks ago now, at the bottom of our email footers, we made it very clear that that Foreign and Commonwealth Office advice needs to be checked. We made it very clear that insurance needs to be checked. On our weekly newsletter, we are putting a link to the Foreign Office website. That, I feel, is the best way we can do it, because what I wouldn't be comfortable in doing, for example, is just putting on our newsletter, you're now fine to go to Spain, because our newsletter sent out on a Thursday. By Friday, that could have changed. So I think we do need to be very, very cautious as to how we get this message across to our customer. And I think the best way really is, if you're going to book a holiday, if you want to book a holiday with us, we will check that for you. But you need to be aware that it's only applicable at the time we check it. An hour later or a day later, that could change. And so it's a responsibility of us as your agent, but also you as the passenger, if you like, to make sure you keep up to date with the rules.
So you said you're not selling any July and August trips at the moment. Would you personally book a trip abroad right now? What are your own sort of personal views on travel at the moment?
I love a holiday, and you know, I don't think I've had a day off since beginning of March. It's literally been non-stop since all this started. You know, I don't think I would. I had a holiday booked for the last week of August. I've got two children, 11 and 12. Me and the boys were going to go away for a week. I've now moved that holiday to October half term.
Right.
So I think that says it all, really. I've moved my own holiday.
Yeah.
If something absolutely incredible was to jump out, I find it difficult to refuse a deal if it ticks all the boxes. But at the same time, I'm still not sure I'm totally comfortable, because I can't risk being in the position, me being stuck overseas, me being quarantined back in the UK on arrival. I don't think my team would be particularly happy if I had a week away and then 2 weeks at home afterwards.
But still 2020. So later in 2020, you'd be happy to go, sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've got the holiday booked for October half term, so looking forward to that.
Okay, fab. And some of the countries on the exemption list must be big sellers for you normally. Are there any that you're particularly relieved that are on there for, looking a bit later on, obviously for September when you're going to be taking bookings, or are there any that you wish were on there? Because there have been some that have sort of been missed off the list, aren't there?
Yeah, the list baffles me a little bit. And yesterday, Sunday, I was at home, and my two boys, they've got a pin board, and they put in pins wherever we've been on holiday. And I kind of just pictured someone in the Foreign Office throwing darts at such board, deciding on what should and shouldn't be on this list, because it certainly doesn't seem that any type of medical guidance has been taken into account, because if that was the case, there are certainly places on that list that wouldn't be on there. I think from my perspective, I'm really pleased to see Mauritius on the list. That's a big seller for us as a destination. Really surprised and shocked that the likes of the Maldives and Sri Lanka aren't on the list. I am surprised that Portugal isn't on the list, because actually it's controlling its infection rates a lot better than some other European countries. If I was a tourism minister for the likes of Madeira or the Azores, I'd be fuming, because they're obviously Portuguese, but very, very well, next to no issues whatsoever on the island of Madeira or across the Azores. So again, it's just a very confusing way that we've gone about, or the government has gone about choosing these destinations. But yeah, there are certainly some top sellers on there for us. I'm really pleased to see Turkey on the list. But for us as a business, where the majority of our profit comes from long haul travel, I'm looking forward to some of those long haul destinations reappearing, but we don't know when that's going to be. We haven't been told in 3 weeks' time the list is going to be updated, or in a week's time the list is going to be updated. So at the moment we're in that period where we've kind of been left in the dark again, unfortunately.
And did you have any sort of calls over the weekend? I know last time we spoke, you said the majority of the calls that you're having are people asking these questions about, is it safe for me to go here, and what will happen if I go there in terms of will the hotels be open? Are you having more calls that are talking about maybe looking ahead towards the end of 2020 and booking something then, or have you still got a lot of confused customers on your hands?
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. Since Saturday morning, and certainly through to this afternoon, very, very few calls or email inquiries for this summer. We've only had literally a handful. And again, that's been more questions relating to, can I go here, rather than can you check some availability for me? I'm really pleased to say that from the 1st of September, we over the last few days, we've popped through some good bookings. We've popped through some Channel Islands bookings, which have been good, high value. We've confirmed a large wedding group to Mauritius in October, so we're really pleased about that. We confirmed a ski package with Ingham's going over to Austria, February half term. So it's really nice to see that some of those bookings are coming in, but for us, it really is September onwards. And we really aren't seeing anything coming through for before then anyway. So it does make me feel like the decision I've taken not to book for July and August it certainly doesn't feel like it's having a detrimental effect on the business, because it's not as if we're getting loads of inquiries anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. And have you noticed any trends in terms of what people are asking for? I mean, that all sounded that was quite a sort of diverse array of stuff, but are people asking for any particular, do they want more isolated locations perhaps? Or have you noticed people asking for more villa holidays because it's easier to self-isolate than it might be in a big all-inclusive perhaps? Or is it kind of a bit of a spread?
It's a real big mix. Certainly, on Friday we booked a villa holiday to the Peloponnese, and that customer specifically did want a villa. And so I do think we will see a rise in villa bookings and that style of accommodation. So I think, and again, similar in a way, the Mauritius wedding booking that we did for October, the clients were originally looking at a villa within the grounds, but in the end decided on a different room type anyway. So I think it is playing on people's minds. But again, no, I think kind of for later dates, kind of for winter onwards, it doesn't seem to be playing on the minds of our customers at the moment. But that's not to say it's not. Is it just putting people off and people aren't even asking the question? So it is difficult to say, but certainly for us as a business, it's a mix of villa style accommodation and also your more traditional hotels.
Okay. So in terms of promotions then, are you promoting 2021 holidays now, say in your shop window and online? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, our big focus at the moment is really October half term onwards.
Right.
We've really been trying to get the message out about October half term. Particularly seems a lot of families like myself, they would have missed their May Easter holiday, they would have missed their May half-term holiday, and they may well have then missed their July-August main school holiday. So we have been putting some focus into October. It's a tricky one, October half-term, because there's obviously only 7 nights for the majority of the schools. And without going too far away, you really are focusing on those areas a bit close to home with a bit more of a guarantee of the weather. So places like the Canary Islands, Cape Verde, the Red Sea. And at the moment, again, one of those travel advices that I'm surprised about is the UAE, because typically October half-term, places like Dubai, Abu Dhabi would be popular bookers for us at the moment. So hopefully they'll be appearing on the list soon. But I think also October half-term is a strange one, because we often have the conversation with people around the lines of, is it really the weather that you're looking for? Or could we look at just a different type of holiday, a holiday where you're not guaranteed the sun's going to be shining? So could we look at a small group touring that's more directed around families, or could we look at more of an activity-based holiday for you as a family instead? But certainly at the moment, as a business, our focus is October onwards, and moving over the next couple of weeks as well. We're also just going to have a bit more of a focus on being away for Christmas and New Year, because we do feel as well that there are a lot of people out there that are particularly fed up. And I think actually getting something to book to be away Christmas and New Year would be something for people to really look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and also in amongst all the stuff that was going on last week, you also appeared on BBC News, didn't you, to talk about the Airbridge fusion,
celebrity,
and the decision not to sell holidays in July and August. So how did that come about? That was great to see you on the TV.
It was really nerve-wracking. So obviously we had our one-to-one last Monday, and then on the Tuesday afternoon I had a telephone call from a reporter at the Daily Telegraph. And I was quoted as saying a few things in the Telegraph. The Daily Mail, we're in the Mail on Sunday, so that was great. Had a couple of appearances on local BBC radio as well. But yeah, just a telephone call from the BBC News channel, just asking to give my opinion as a travel agent. And so yeah, it's certainly a nerve-wracking experience, and I was, not something that I've done before, but yeah, it was certainly good to put our piece across, if you like, and afterwards it was nice. I must be honest, our website normally gets a dozen hits a day. Not many people specifically search for Deben Travel Woodbridge, and after that I think the increase that we saw on the graph was something ridiculous, like 9,000% increase on views on the Deben Travel website, so that was quite good. So yeah, hopefully, not only did it put some helpful information out there to people watching, but I hope anyway that from a Deben Travel perspective, it might bring a few more new customers to us as well.
Definitely, yeah. And what about your existing clients? Were people sort of getting in touch saying that they'd seen you on the news? And
yeah, definitely. We had a few telephone calls. We had a few people popping in. We've got a very regular customer, Mr. Rolls. He's 92. He popped in and he said, I woke up from my afternoon nap to see you on the news. And immediately afterwards, they were talking about the murder of 5 people.
oh,
And
geez.
so he said I put the two together, and I was very confused.
Oh, God.
But then his wife told him and kept him up to date. So yeah, received some nice emails and some nice telephone calls, and as I say, at the moment where we desperately need people to book holidays, it's a good bit of PR for the business. So that's great.
Fantastic. And I know last time we spoke, you said that credit card fees were another issue for you. So I think we'll move on to talk about that now, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So yes, you said that they were an issue for you last week because you're having to pay the fees twice. Is that right? So once when you were initially making the booking, and now when you're refunding, you're having to pay them twice. Is that the case?
Well, not for us as a business.
Okay.
I'm not going to use the words lucky because refunds are a huge issue. We're obviously charged a credit card fee and for debit cards and for American Express at the time we take payment from the customer. We're lucky in that the Global Travel Group, the consortium that we're part of, handles all the refunds for us.
Right.
So, and in any normal situation, we would be charged the fees twice. But because members of the Global Travel Group are working from home, they're actually refunding customers via BACS transfer. So it's luck more than anything else that we're not being charged twice. But I'm absolutely aware that there will be a massive percentage of travel agencies across the UK that are being charged twice. When we're in a situation like we are, where we're booking very few holidays and getting very little money coming in, I believe it's my responsibility as the business owner to look at various different ways we can to try and save money, to try and bring back money into the business, to protect our future, really. And so when looking at, we're with Barclays Merchant Services, and when looking through our bills, it just really got on my nerves that in credit card fees alone, for the amount of bookings that we'd cancelled, we're talking just over £11,700 worth of credit card fees that we've paid to Barclays Merchant Services. And obviously, we know we can no longer pass those charges on. So not only have we put in loads of work to get the holiday booked, we've put in loads of work to get the holiday cancelled, and grief and continuing administration. So we're not actually making any money on that booking anyway. We've actually lost money on the booking because of the credit card fees. Now, as I say, some agents out there are going to have lost out twice. So there's a massive sum of money there. Now, I don't expect Barclays Merchant Services to write me a check for that amount. But I'm now in a dialogue with them that's only recently just started to say, can we look at our charges further down the line? What can we do going forward? Because obviously the industry does need help. And is there anything you can do to support us? Because it's not going to benefit them in any way if I or lots of other travel agencies go out of business, because then they'll be getting nothing. Yeah. So I just want to start a dialogue, and I'd encourage other agents to do the same. That over the next 6 to 12 months, would your merchant service provider consider no fees or reduce fees or cutting your fees by 50%? Because unfortunately, they have got us. They've got us in the corner. We can't do a lot about it, but hopefully just by starting that dialogue, we'll be in a position further down the line where over the next 6 to 12 months, where we're hopefully going to see bookings come back, that we're going to try to recoup a bit of that money that we have lost through card fees.
Okay, that's great that you've had that conversation. Have they been receptive so far? What's the sort of feedback been like from them? No.
No, not at all. Not at all. Do they not know I've been on the BBC, you know? So, no, it's been an initial telephone call, followed up by a letter, eagerly awaiting their response. But at the same time, you know, the more of us as agents and business owners that can put that pressure on, I'd like to think the better chance we've got over the next kind of few months of maybe securing discounted or reduced rates on our merchant fees, you know, certainly for the coming year, I'd like to think. So I think it's something that us as an industry need to get behind. No one's going to do it for us. They aren't going to come to us and ask us if we want to pay less. So I just urge everyone to do it, really, because, you know, we need to save everything we can at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, power and numbers and all that. Well, fingers crossed for that, Lee. Keep us
definitely.
updated.
Yeah, we'll
Keep
keep
us
you updated.
if you get a response from them as well. And on a more positive note, more shops were allowed to open at the weekend. So we had the pubs and the hairdressers opening. Did you notice more people out and about on the high street? And are you appointment only at the moment? Are you accepting?
No. We're open. We're open. We'll take anything we can get. Well, as long as it's not travelling in July and August.
Okay.
The high street was definitely busier. I think the weather wasn't great, that maybe kept a few people off the high street. But yeah, certainly there were more people about than I've seen in previous weeks. And certainly today as well, the high street does seem busier than what it has been. It's a real shame here, you know, when even as early as 3 years ago, there was not one empty unit on the whole of our high street. Not one, and it's you know, so the premises on the high street were really sought after, and today I've counted 9. So you know, some businesses have just taken a decision not to come back again. So it is a real shame. You know, I'm pleased to see though that another agency close to us, Travel Quest, they've reopened today. So kind of, you know, wish them the best of luck as well, because, you know, we need all of us to come back to build for our customers to feel confident in booking again. And so, you know, it was really great that that other travel agencies are reopening as well. But I think, you know, the high street is going to feel this effect for a long time, which is a great shame, because, you know, we rely on our regular database of clients, but we also rely on those people that simply look at our window and come in. And you know, the more people that come onto the high street, the better, really. So our local high street management company, they're currently lobbying the local council with regards to looking at car parking charges and things like that. So hopefully we'll have a bit more news on that over the coming weeks, because that will certainly help our area, because car parking charges are quite high. And again, I'm sure lots of agents across the UK, you know, are very, very similar to that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and with so many changes coming into force and people, you know, a lot of members of the public feeling confused by the conflicting travel advice over the past few weeks, do you think the role of a travel agent is going to be really invaluable and in offering guidance for people when they are looking at booking a holiday?
Definitely. I think now is the time for us to sell ourselves more than ever. If I had the nerve, which I haven't, I would go down the route of possible. I know some agents have started, or certainly looking at charging fees. You know, I haven't got the nerve to do that. That's not to say we never will, because why shouldn't we charge for our expertise? But certainly the conversations that I'm having with customers at the moment is, you know, that the amount of time you would have been exchanging emails or telephone calls and getting yourself stressed when your holiday was cancelled, we took all of that away from you. You know, the stress involved and the uncertainty of knowing where you can and currently can't travel to, we will take that stress away from you, and in many cases charge absolutely no more than what you will find online. So why shouldn't you book it through a trusted travel agent? So I think now is the time to really, really sell ourselves. I think my only concern, again, going back to refunds, is it's quite clear that some customers that have booked direct may well, or have received refunds a lot quicker than what they did booking through me as a travel agent. So I hope that doesn't affect things going forward. And that's something for us to kind of keep an eye on, really. But certainly, from a travel agency perspective, I think now really is the time to sell ourselves, our services, our expertise, and make sure that people come back to us in the future that may have had their fingers burnt, having booked their travel independently during the COVID, you know, during the initial COVID crisis.
Okay, fantastically. I think that's all we've got time for, really. I've just noticed the time there. But yeah, any sort of final words to other agents out there during this tough time? Are we starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, would you say?
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a long tunnel, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think for me, I'm now at the early stages of planning the rest of the team coming back, which will be great. We are seeing more people out on the high street. We are coming across more people talking about holidays. I would say, just stick with it, smile and wave, and I think if we can get through this crisis, there'll be absolutely no stopping us after this. So yeah, let's just keep doing all we can to sell our expertise.
Fantastic. All right. Brilliant words to end on there. So thanks so much for your time again, Lee. It's been really great to talk to you. And yeah, to hear your thoughts on this ever-changing landscape. And thanks to everyone who's tuned in today as well. And just a reminder that we've got our Restart Travel Holidays Our Go virtual seminar taking place on Thursday at 2 p.m. this week. So more details of that can be found at tggmedia.com. And you can also catch up on this podcast and on the previous week's podcast of 1 Week at a Time on SoundCloud on the TTG Media channel and also online at ttgmedia.com. So yeah, that's kind of it from us. So thanks very much. Have a great week, Lee, and we'll speak to you next week.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.